Welcome to this special episode of So You Want to Sell on eBay. I'm Ron LeBeau.
And I'm Ali Young.
Hey everyone, we have with us today Craig Cody, CPA. How you doing, Craig?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me on today.
Love it.
Yeah. And so I'm doing good, man. Ali, how you doing in Thailand? I got to ask Ali because he gets offended if I don't ask him. So how you doing in Thailand?
There's something about this accent. From all these gangster movies, I just love it. Us Brits love this accent. It's amazing.
Yeah, okay, good. That's awesome, Ali. Keep watching your Westerns, buddy.
That's it, yeah.
All right, so Craig Cody is a certified tax coach, certified public accountant, business owner, and former New York City police officer with 17 years experience on the force. In addition to being a CPA for the past 15 years, he's also a certified tax coach. And as a certified tax coach, Craig belongs to a select group of tax practitioners throughout the country who undergo extensive training and continued education on various tax planning techniques and strategies to become, as well as remain, certified. With this organization, Craig has co-authored an Amazon bestseller book, Secrets of a Tax-Free Life.
Wow.
Excuse me, guys.
Is there anything...
Hang on. After that, I need a drink.
Is there anything that you haven't done? I mean, can you fly a plane or like ride an elephant? Amazing.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you very much for joining us today, Craig. We really, certainly appreciate you, man. And today's topic, the overall topic is going to be taxes, right? I mean, because that's a topic that, a lot of business owners, most of the people that we've talked to on this show and that we've interviewed, over 160, most of them have started by selling things around their house, right? So they started as a hobby, right? And then it grows and grows and grows. Next thing you know, they're 2 years into this and it's more than a hobby. They're actually making more money and stuff. And now all of a sudden they have to do taxes and all this stuff on this. And it's very, very overwhelming to the average person. So what I'd like to do is, what we'd like to do is break it down. Let's start from the very beginning. And when you're transitioning from a hobby to a business, what does that look like, and how do you handle your taxes from there on?
Well, most people are still working. They have a W-2. Everything is good. They make a little side money. It's not a big deal. Then all of a sudden, they kind of start to do much better, and now they have all this income that at the end of the year they haven't paid any taxes on, and that's when the surprise comes in. So I like people that kind of use the profit first, method, where they put a little bit aside every month from that money that comes in, and they call it what they want to call a profit account or a tax account. So they have some money set aside for the end of the year. Now, it's a great thing is if they don't owe it all to the government, then they've got some forced savings. But
yes,
the thing you don't want to do is stick your head in the sand, and next thing you know, you owe Uncle Sam a big chunk of money.
It takes the fun out of it, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it sure does.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I do with Ali and I, with my business, with our business. I've got a separate savings account that I put 25% of anything we earn right in that account. There's no surprises. It's just done.
Right. And that's a very smart way to do it.
So here I am. I'm selling on eBay. I'm selling my clothing and stuff, and I'm making sales. So is every single thing that comes in from a sale I've got to pay tax on? Is there any way of bouncing my other sales to make me not pay tax in a legal way, obviously?
The very beginner, from hobby to business. I mean, at what point do you have to start claiming taxes? Because I think, there's a point where, hobby money, correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't have to report everything. Is that correct?
Yeah,
or do you have to?
No. Every dollar you're supposed to report. So once you start making money, you have to start, calculating how much revenue you have and what your expenses are and tracking it. And then when it comes time to file your tax returns, you need to report it all.
Okay. So disregard what I said, everyone, and listen to the CPA. He really does know what he's doing. And that was a test, guys. That was a test for everyone out there listening, and he passed it well. Thank you, Craig, for taking the test there for me.
The IRS was actually listening to me also.
That's right. And my name is Bob, just for the record. Yeah. So,
and fortunately, there's fortunately or unfortunately, the IRS is closed right now, so that's okay.
It's late
exactly.
At night. So can I write stuff off though? So if I buy bubble wrap or if I do, buy stuff for my eBay business and stuff, can I write it off against the money I'm making? Because it's all so complicated.
It is a little complicated, so that's why once you start making some money, it's probably best that you hire a professional or do a lot of research so you know what you're doing. But yeah, all those supply costs that you're using, you get to write off against the income. Now, a popular mistake we see people making is they think because they bought inventory, they get to write that inventory off. And
Right. No, that's
basically,
not. Yeah.
it doesn't work that way. So at the end of the year, if you're sitting there with $50,000 worth of inventory, you've paid the money for that, but you don't get to deduct that on your taxes.
Okay, you don't get to claim it as a loss because you.
No, not until you
Okay.
actually sell it or destroy it.
Okay, no, that's good. So let's talk a little bit about hiring a professional. I mean, at what point do you think? I mean, well, I guess it's different for everyone because I mean, the beginner can be overwhelmed by all this too. But when I hire a professional like yourself, what do I do? Just hand you all my receipts and let you deal with it? Is it
Well,
that way, or is that?
if the way we work is, yes, that when you hire us, we're taking all that over for you. But you can hire somebody else that's going to give you some guidance, and you may not be ready to hire us. And maybe it's not a hobby. You're generating some revenue, but you don't really need a full service accounting firm working for you. So
Right.
you want to keep good records, and it's typically best, and easier for whoever's doing your bookkeeping that you maybe use one credit card, one bank account, or multiple bank accounts, but one income account. Because what we notice is people tend to spend money from multiple sources and multiple credit cards. And at the end of the year, they only go to one credit card for their expenses, but they spent all this other money that they don't account for.
Gotcha. Yeah, so that makes it simpler for you. It makes it less complicated for me as the seller because, if I've got 5 or 6 credit cards and I'm buying this with this one and buying this with this one, it's a mess. Whereas, like you said, if you have one business credit card, anything business related on there is going to show up on the statement. It's something you need to deal with. That's awesome. I love that idea. So you don't have a meal on there that, isn't tax deductible or anything like that. You just got straight out business expenses.
Correct. And, we see it all the time where people, they don't track stuff and they wind up spending their personal money on stuff and then it wasn't deducted because nobody knows about it.
So what's my job then as a person who, because, let's say I'm a messy guy and, I'm not keeping track of all this properly. So what's my job? So anytime I have a receipt, I need to keep that receipt and then I give you that receipt at the end of the year or something, do I? I mean, how does because you make it sound so easy.
Only if you want to make me really angry, you're going to give me a shoebox worth of receipts.
No. What you like in an Excel spreadsheet?
What you really want to do is you want to try and use your bank account. You don't want to spend cash. Okay, so you want it to be stuff that's easily trackable. And you want to try and limit, if you can, to one credit card. So all your expenses either came out of your bank account or came out of your credit card. So at the end of the year, you don't miss any of those expenses. So that's the biggest problem when people are not very organized. And most people aren't, especially if they're starting out because they're working someplace else. It's a side gig, all right? So they don't have a whole lot of time. And it's hard for them to keep track of everything. Whereas if they keep it related to those two things, much better chance that all your expenses are going to be accounted for.
And I would imagine the better relationship that you and I would have, right? Is like you said, as opposed to giving you a whole shoebox and saying, please handle this. And, oh, by the way, my taxes are due next week.
Correct. That's not going to go over too well.
Right.
So, I mean, but, at what point do you pay tax then? So is there a point that you can earn X amount of money and then before you actually have to pay tax?
No, let's just say you have no other income, all right? So, yeah, if you make less than $20,000, you're not going to pay any income taxes, but you might still pay self-employment tax, which is 15%. So, but most people are going to have are going to, going to have a W-2 job, and they're having the withholding from there and stuff, and then they start this little side gig, and at some point, the side gig blows up, and next thing you know, they're doing a lot of revenue every month, and that's when people start to have sleepless nights because they know in the back of their mind, oh, geez, I'm going to have to pay taxes because I'm making a lot of money now, and they haven't done anything about it.
So when you talk about the self-employment tax, does that apply to everybody? I mean, it's in business for themselves, so you got to pay your regular taxes and then a 15% on top of that?
Right, 15% on roughly the first $130,000. So you may have no income tax, but you may have some self-employment tax.
This is a thing I never understood with tax. You pay tax on top of tax.
Yes, exactly.
I wonder how that confuses me. I mean, why are you getting penalized?
That's what funds Social Security and Medicare.
Okay.
So that's the self-employment tax.
So like in my W-2, is that my FICA I mean,
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, I got you. Okay, that's how they
You know,
get you on that.
but
Okay,
as a business owner, as an employee, you only pay half of that, 7.65%. But as a business owner, since you own a business and you're the employee, you pay it two times, which is 15.3%.
Damn,
wow.
man.
Okay, and then you got state tax and all that other
And
stuff.
then you
So
have
it's
state tax and all that other stuff. Exactly. So,
yeah. So and every state's different. So you got to really
right.
check your own
So,
state and make sure that you
and,
understand the rules there.
and even if you're in a low tax bracket and you have $50,000 worth of, this eBay income, net income, the self-employment tax on that alone is $7,500.
Mm,
So
wow.
forget about income tax. So you really want to, have a plan.
Sounds like it.
Okay, so help us out with this plan. I mean, what would you
Yeah,
suggest?
right. Help us
Well,
out.
you definitely don't want to keep your head in the sand. You want to track. You want to make sure you have some way, if you're not keeping good records, where you could actually go back and recreate those records, whether it's your bank statements or your credit card statements.
Yep. Okay, so
And
cool. So
you
go
don't
ahead.
want to wait till the last minute to contact your accountant.
Right. Yeah. You want to build that relationship before
Correct.
you.
Communication communication is key.
Yeah, and so at some point, when I get to making some money and some decent money, I mean, don't we pay isn't it advisable to pay your taxes quarterly?
Correct. Then let's just say you're no longer a W-2 employee and you're running your business as a sole proprietor. The government wants their money quarterly. So April 15th, June 15th, September 15th, you're sending them a check.
So do you get penalized if you don't do it quarterly and you think you're going to do it at one time at the end of the year?
Yes. The government says, we want your money quarterly. If you don't send it to us that way, we're going to hit you with a penalty.
Yeah, that's the whole problem is they want your money. So what's some good tools then for to sort of manage this sort of thing? Just for the real plain simple person. What's
I mean,
tools?
for the plain simple person, QuickBooks Online is a great resource. It's fairly inexpensive, and they could track their stuff. It integrates with your bank account, and it'll do a lot of it. If you're not generating a lot of revenue, you could really be very helpful.
Yeah. And my accountant actually has access to my QuickBooks, and they can kind of get in there and do their own thing, right?
Correct. But the key is always garbage in, garbage out. You have to make sure that the right stuff is in there. The wonderful thing about QuickBooks Online, if you're using it, is it'll actually download everything from your bank account into it. So it'll keep you from missing, missing transactions.
Like in Asia, for example, everything's cash. People don't really use cards. Is it not like that in America where people are still paying with cash?
Cards.
Yeah, mostly cards, and especially because everything is over the internet.
Right.
Yeah.
So
it's hard
but you're buying thrifting, you're buying goods in cash. Aren't you out and about on a daily basis just using cash?
No, most people are using like debit cards for the
right.
tracking purposes.
Okay.
That's the advisable way to do it. I mean, I don't think anybody wants to go into a thrift store and put 25, 50 or $100 bill down on the table. You want to use your credit card or debit card for tracking purposes. And obviously you can get, good, decent credit cards with, that earn you points too,
Right. And you want to pay them off every month.
Yeah, definitely. And that'll help your credit score and all these other good things that come along with it. But yeah, it's for tracking purposes. You want to use your debit card or credit card. Absolutely. Well, cool. So that's a lot of good information because, I know, QuickBooks is actually fairly easy to use, but you have to use it. You set up what do they call it? An accounts, where all your different, things that you're using it for, bill of accounts or something like that.
Chart of accounts.
That's right. Gosh, guys, he passed it again. That was the second test. I'm going to keep testing you throughout this conversation. It looks like I don't know the answer. It looks like Ali, how am I doing there? Do I really look like I?
You look good. Sexy.
Yeah, chart of accounts. That's right. So you can set up chart of accounts, and then it really does get easy. There's a lot of YouTube videos on how to use it and stuff like that, and it's fairly inexpensive to use for the QuickBooks Online too.
Yes.
And that is deductible.
Correct. Anything pretty much involved in your business is deductible. All right. There's been some changes where entertainment is not deductible, but pretty much if you need to get something for your business, you get to deduct it.
Flight tickets,
Right.
things like that. It's all deductible, is it?
If it's travel to a conference where you're going to learn about selling on eBay and stuff like that, that's related, yes. If it's to
Yeah.
go lay on the beach, no.
How do you know the
Well,
difference? I mean, is it you got to show something extra after it, or?
No, you just have to, be honest with your accountant.
yeah. Yeah, you can lay on the beach and talk eBay, and then you can write the whole trip off.
Bam,
Okay, never
baby.
mind.
You could be lying in a beach in Thailand, Ron, because it's a podcast show about eBay. There you
Well,
go.
that or because you're my business partner, we have to have one meeting a year.
Yes. At
Yeah.
least one meeting a year.
At least
Exactly.
one meeting a year. In fact,
Exactly.
I might have to bring Craig with me as my
That's it.
CPA, right?
Yeah,
And
just
pay
to
for his trip.
prove that you're spending it wisely.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
We might be onto something here, but we're recording this live here, so let's be careful what we say. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's really cool. I mean, like Ali kind of started, taxes are a boring topic, but it's really something that really everyone needs to be aware of because, I would imagine, and maybe you can help me out here. I would imagine there's a lot of people that, first of all, that are starting out on eBay and they're really struggling. They're not sure exactly what to do. Really, my advice is if you're gonna treat eBay as a business, be business about it and get an accountant right off the bat and just make sure that you're doing this right out of the chute. Treat it like a business right out of the chute. But I would think that there are people out there that have been doing eBay for quite a long time that may be doing a lot of things wrong, right? And I always say that the saying is if you always do what you always did, you always get what you always got. And so if they've always been doing things wrong, then they don't really know. So let me put you on the spot for just a minute, Craig, and see if we can come up with just a couple tips or a couple ideas of things that you might think that people aren't aware of that might turn that light bulb on to them that might save them some money.
Oh yeah, definitely. Are they taking the home office deduction? Are they, using a room in their home for their business? Are they using maybe their garage to store product? Those are things that you could take a home office deduction for. All right. And when you take the home office deduction, it then allows you to take the home athletic facility, which could be your gym or your pool. Are you using your vehicle to go purchase products? Are you deducting, the business use of your vehicle? So, and, for those people that are a little bit more advanced and are making a little bit more money, did they choose the right entity to operate out of?
Okay. Meaning,
Are they an LLC? Are they a corporation, a sole proprietorship, an S corporation? Has any thought gone into that entity and what the tax effects of that entity are?
so let's talk about that for a minute. Are you saying that, maybe you want to start out as an LLC and then is it a gradual thing you graduate to or?
No, it's really isn't a gradual thing. It's just sometimes me and you could be in the same business and an LLC might make sense for me, but a corporation might make sense for you.
Okay.
All right. And it depends on what else is going on in our life, who has a job, a W-2 job, what kind of money are we making there and stuff like that. And it's important because now we have this thing called qualified business income. And that's a deduction, which is depending on where your income resides, but it can be for up to 20% of your net income. So if your net is $100,000, the government's going to say, we're just going to give you a $20,000 deduction on top of everything else.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So, I mean, guys, listen, man, an accountant is just a part of doing business. It's just a necessary part of doing business because, I would imagine the fees that we pay an accountant would pay for themselves, in no time, plus the peace of mind going to bed at night, knowing that, you got all your ducks in a row, you're paying all your taxes, everything's good. That peace of mind is worth something, right? I mean, it really is.
I always say a good accountant is really a return on investment. It's not an expense, it's an income item.
Actually, absolutely. Absolutely. That's the truth.
Can we write off the accountant as an expense?
Of course.
Nice.
Yes.
Let's get 4 of them.
Well, don't write off the accountant. Write off the accountant's expenses.
One thing we also have to remember, like a deduction saves us money, but I'd rather have no deduction and the money in my pocket.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a good point because, a lot of people say, oh, I'll buy that because it's a tax deduction. Well, it's a tax write-off. Well, just because it's a tax write-off doesn't mean it's a great investment, right? I mean,
exactly.
people thinking ahead, I think sometimes that a tax deduction or a write-off means that, that whole dollar amount comes off no, it doesn't. It's a part of it. It's just a small part of it that comes off, right?
Correct. You get to deduct that, but if you're in the 24% bracket, you only save 24 cents for every dollar you spent.
Exactly.
So take a situation so similar situation to mine and Ron. So we have multiple businesses, we have multiple employees. So let's say a job comes in, we get paid a job for development. Then Ron pays out the development team. Let's say he pays out me. Then do you just pay tax because Ron's proving that money's going out? Do you just only pay tax on then Ron's share, for example?
The net amount that he has left, exactly.
Of Ron, yeah?
Right.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Damn. Yeah.
And if the two of you, just say the two of you were partners in an entity, then he would pay tax on half of it. You would pay tax on half of it.
So Ron,
right, but it's a little bit different because Ali's in Thailand and he doesn't have a social security number. So what we do is typically when we bring in $30,000, I give Ali 25, I take 5 because that's how Ali's got me doing this. And then I just pay taxes on my 5.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. Ali's got a good deal going on.
We got a free thingy. We should do this more often, Ron. We can get all our information happening here.
We're not even recording this, Craig. This is just. No, that's good.
I get a free trip, don't I?
Absolutely.
I have my elephant quarters. I shall put you there.
As a matter of fact, that was July 17th of 2018, and we were wondering where you were. So sorry you missed it.
But we wrote it off as taxes. Don't worry.
Let's get back to taxes, okay? Because we're having so much fun here. No, you had mentioned about the garage and stuff as part of the write-off there. But, can you actually rent your garage to your business? Is that work, or how does that look?
Well, you could do that, but it really doesn't make sense because you rent. So your business now gets to deduct the rent that it pays to you, but then you have to pick up that rental income personally. So it doesn't really save you anything.
I mean, I got you. So the deduction covers anything that you would charge for yourself in rent anyhow.
Right.
Don't make it complicated.
Right. You get a deduction here, but you have income here, so the net's the same.
Good. Test number 3 passed again, Ali. Gosh, this guy's good.
I do not think I've talked so much about tax in my whole life. This is amazing. So this information is good for the person who's just starting out, the person who's been going for a while. I mean, you should maybe incorporate. Let's say you have a product for $10. You should incorporate all of this in the actual price of that product. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because people forget about overhead, right?
Absolutely.
And their time.
It costs money to run a business, right?
Exactly.
Right. So let's take that look. And let's just say I've got are you talking about on each per item? Like if I pay, $30 for an item, do I, figure out, talk to me about that. Let's just say when I'm making a purchase, do I consider my taxes at that point?
Well, yeah. You want to figure out, okay, if I purchase something for $1, how much do I have to sell it for to make the profit that I want? Now you got to figure in what your overhead is, right? What you're going to pay yourself, and then how many of those pieces of product are you going to sell during a year?
Okay.
So if you're going to sell one piece the whole year, and your overhead is $50,000, and you're spending $30 for the product, well, your break even is $80. So if you sell it for $80, you've made no money.
Right. No, that makes good sense.
Does it?
That makes good sense because really a lot of people, especially the beginners, and it's no fault of their own. A lot of people, just sell, and they just get this money. They're like, wow, this is awesome, man. I've made this much money, but they don't even consider overhead and taxes and the other things. Let's have some fun when you're doing your eBay business by being responsible with the money, because really, if you're not responsible with the money, like you said, that call from your CPA or that call from that email, that letter you get from the government is not something fun to read. I'm sure. I
correct. And you're working hard, and you want to come away with something, right? You're not, it might be a lot of fun, but after a while, you want to have something to show for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And right from the beginning is when you want to do that. So when you're making the purchases that you need to know what the end game is. And in order to get to this end game, I have to do this. And that makes a lot of good sense.
Correct.
Cool. So awesome, man. So this is really good. I mean, and Ali says he hasn't talked about taxes in all his life like this. I've talked about taxes this much, but it hasn't been this fun. I'll tell you that. Yeah. But no, it's good. It's good. And so let's talk about again about tips and tricks that you have because you've been doing this for a while. What are the things that you can think of that the eBay seller might not be aware of?
Maybe they can hire their kids. All right,
Oh,
maybe their
okay.
kids are working for them.
Like that.
A kid now um, can make up to $12,000 a year and pay no federal taxes.
I like
So
that.
now
Kids, get to work.
tax court has ruled, you can hire your kids as young as 7 years old. Now, you have to pay them a reasonable wage for what they're doing.
Sure.
Lollipop.
All right. But that's something. Then there's medical expense reimbursement plans that you could pay for your out-of-pocket medical expenses, depending on what type of entity you are. So really the key is communicate with your accountant and ask them what you could do. And the sooner you do it, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah, because every situation is different. I mean, you and I, and Ali, and we could talk about it, but then if you talk to 5 other people and their situation is completely
Right.
different. The conversation changes
Right.
per situation. So, not all of us can be experts on everything. So, hire the accountant and let them be experts in their field.
Exactly, because me and you might have a conversation. What's good for me and you may not be good for Ali, and then Ali goes and do it, and then you know what? God forbid, it causes him a lot of tax. So
Yeah.
Definitely, God forbid. So I'm just, and this is just maybe what other people are thinking, so I'm just going to say it. Is there not a way around of not paying it at all? So if I'm writing everything off as an expense, and let's say I'm a nutter and I'm out there buying everything and for my business and stuff, is there a way not to balance it out that you end up not having to pay tax?
no, because you can only write off stuff that's that's like when you have supplies, you have to use those supplies. So if they're sitting on a shelf, if you spend $50,000 on supplies and they're sitting on a shelf, technically you can't write them off until they're used.
Right.
The same with inventory.
We'll have to have a
Okay.
bubble wrap party.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and that's why you really, I can't say this enough. You want to communicate with your tax professional, okay? And, use the knowledge they have.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that, a lot of people that are watching this, really understand, if nothing else, if the light doesn't come on for anything else, I hope that the message of get a tax accountant, on board with you, on part of your team, because like I said, there's a difference between a hobby and a business. A hobby costs you money and a business makes you money, but there are expenses involved, and just get that peace of mind, because too many people make the mistake of making $30,000 a year, spending $30,000 a year, and then they get that letter in the mail or knock on the door, or their CPA's calling them, and it's just not any fun when you don't have the money to replace what you should have done in the first place. And it's simple. The fix is simple, right? The fix is simple. It's doing it right from the beginning the correct way. You talked about having that separate savings account. Just put 20. Do you think 25% would cover?
Yeah, 25%.
Okay, 25% covers it, and then everything else. And then you might, like you said, you might not even have to owe all that money at the end of the year, and that's just a bonus savings. Go buy yourself a soda or something.
Exactly, and it's nice. It's nice to know that when that bill comes, you could pay it, and you could walk away, and you don't
Yes.
maybe have a spouse that's really annoyed at you because now you know what, you owe all this money, and it's where'd it go?
Don't want an annoying spouse. Yeah, definitely not. So do you get like tax reduction? So let's say you pay too much tax because, God forbid you would do that. Do you get money back from the government?
Yes, you do.
Cool.
Yes,
That's
you
the
do.
good bit. That bit makes
Right.
you feel
So,
good.
but then if you do that, you're giving the government your money. You're loaning them money.
Don't want to do that.
There's two schools of thought on that. And really, I tell me if I'm wrong, Craig, but I think there's two schools of thought on that. Some people say, I'd rather overpay and at least get something back than owe money and trying to figure out where I'm going to come up with that. So I'm with you, Craig. I like to, cut it as close as I can and maybe get a couple bucks back. That's because then that means I've got more money in my pocket throughout the year, and it's my money. I don't want to loan the government money and be at their mercy to pay me back when they deem fit.
Exactly, and then you could use that money that you have in your pocket to buy supplies, buy inventory, and sell that and make more money.
Absolutely.
Craig, we've run out of time. I think you're amazing. I would certainly employ you because you would just make my life easy, because to me it's just, it just makes no sense whatsoever. From the start of being in the shop to getting that letter from the government, which I probably would, I just wouldn't understand it. So definitely the word of the final thought is to find someone like Craig to help you out with something like this.
And let me ask you real quick, Craig, before we go here. For anybody who's listening who may want to, have a conversation with you, we talked about state taxes and stuff. I know you're in New York, right? So are you able to handle like Missouri
Yes.
tax? So
We have
would it benefit?
clients. We have clients across the country. So
Okay.
yes.
All right, cool.
We have clients
That's
across the
awesome. That's good stuff. So, hey, thanks for joining us today at the summit, man. This is really
it's been
awesome. We're
amazing.
having a blast with this. Really appreciate your time today, sir.
So how do they
Thank you.
contact you, Craig? What's the best way
So
to contact you?
we are going to, we'll give you the landing page, but it's going to be craigcodyandcompany.com/eBay. And they could get a copy of my book.
Oh, right.
The 10 most expensive tax mistakes we'll mail out to them. Or they could email us at craig@ccodycpa.com, or our phone is 516-869-4051.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Love it.
Good stuff.
Thank you so much for spending the time.
Thank you very
Craig.
much, guys,
We
for having
really
me. I
enjoyed it.
appreciate it.
And we shall see you
Yeah.
again soon. See you later, everyone.
Yes, sir.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.